In this section of the unit, 8.7, using sampling to predict, we're basically going to try to find ways of taking a small sample of a population and use it to predict what the entire big population, what their choices would be. So for example, the manager of a radio station wants to conduct a survey to determine what type of music people like. And so suppose she decides to survey a group of people at a rock concert. Do you think the results would represent all of the people in the listening area? Well, if she goes to a rock concert, we could probably find mostly people who are interested in rock music. So they're not going to be very representative of the people in the area. If we're going to be in Tokyo here, only the people who like rock generally are going to go to that rock concert. So that would not be a good representation of all the people in the listening area. It would only be representing a very small group of people in the listening area. Suppose she decides to survey students at your middle school. Do you think the results would represent all of the people in the listening area? Once again, middle school students do not represent the whole population of Tokyo well, especially in American school, whose musical taste will be very different from most of Tokyo. Now suppose she decides to call every 100th household in the telephone book. Well, you can tell this is a really old problem because you guys have probably never even seen a telephone book before. But it used to be that everybody had their phone numbers listed in a telephone book and it would be issued out to the area. So if I wanted to call my friend George, I could just look up his last name in the telephone book and be able to find out his phone number in there. And pretty much everybody, most everybody had their name listed in this telephone book. So suppose she was deciding to call every 100th household in the telephone book. She would count, start alphabetically, go down the thing, and every 100th she would call them. Do you think the results would represent all of the people in the listening area? Yes, this would be a very good way of doing it. This is a random selection. We're calling every 100th household. We don't know what kind of music that they like. So, out of a population of 15 to 35 million people, depending on how you're measuring the population of Tokyo here, every 100th household, we would get certainly a lot of people representing Tokyo, and it would be randomly selected. We don't know. We would actually find a pretty good selection of a variety of people who like a variety of different kinds of music and would represent Tokyo pretty well. And this is not biased because we are choosing every 100th person. Of the previous three samples of the population, which are biased and which are unbiased? Well, the first two are definitely biased. They are not good ways of surveying or what type of people music like, or what type of music people like, rather. However, C, calling every 100th household, is an unbiased way, a much better way of doing that. In this next section, you're supposed to turn to page 406 and basically looking at these different ways of sampling. And if we look here at the bottom here, we actually have these ones on page 406 are all unbiased ways of sampling. These are the good ways. These are actually the ones that's really important for you to learn. All right, and you're about to do a project that's going to start at the end of class today. You're going to need to choose one of these ways to sample some students from your 8th grade class. So you're either going to be using the simple random sample, the stratified random sample, or the systematic random sample. So you need to read up on these three methods and get to know them well and decide which one that you're going to use for your project. On the other page are the bad ones. These are the bias samples. You do not want to find a biased way of being able to sample students in your 8th grade class. You will do very poorly on this project if you choose one of these. Many students want to find the easiest way to find somebody, so they may just they think they're randomly grabbing people in the hall, but you're just finding it very convenient. And who knows there might actually be a system of why people are walking through that hall. They might be coming from a certain class, and there's a reason why they're in that class. So that is not random when you just find people in the hall and do it. So you actually have to find some way that is not one of these, not a convenient sample and not a voluntary response sample to be able to do that. So again, you need to read these so that you understand some of the pitfalls and some of the things that people do that are not good ways of finding a sample of people. And then you can answer the questions here for number 2 once you've read those. And then you can check back and see how your answers compare to mine. So here's the answers for the first page here. Determine what videos their customers like. Every 10th person to walk into the video store is surveyed. Well, if we're choosing every 10th, and we actually want to know just for the video customers, then this is a very unbiased way. This is a systematic random sample. We're using a system of counting every 10th person that goes in. That's different than B, which is we're trying to find out what all people like to do in their leisure time, not just video store people. So if we survey the customers of a video store, that's going to be biased. We're only going to find people who like watching videos in their free time. That is a convenient sample. We very conveniently found one place to choose that, but it's not giving us a very accurate sample. C, again, we're choosing out of a survey of 100 households. But this case here, we're trying to find out how much people spend on heating their home, and we're only choosing ones from Arizona. That's convenient to choose all from one state. But Arizona is one of the warmest states in the United States, so they're not going to spend very much on heating their home. That's going to be a biased sample of the U.S. Again, choosing, and this person this one's a little different. Determining what benefits employees, we're going to look at one person from each department. The fact that we've divided this into departments and choosing people from each one makes it stratified random sample, and that's another good way, unbiased. This one doesn't say how someone is chosen at random. Make sure if you're going to use this way that you still have a random way of choosing that person from each department. All right, to find out favorite TV show, they took every 4th person. This one, once again, is systematic. We have a system of taking every 4th person. And then if I'm going to ask people to come to my classroom, only those who will voluntarily come to my classroom to take the survey will do that. That is a voluntary response sample, and that is biased. We're only going to get the kind of people who are willing to do that, and that might not be very representative of everybody. Okay, moving on to number 3 here. We're going to now use a survey to be able to determine, and this is we're going to use some proportions to be able to find out how many binders we're going to order in this case. So the school sells 3-ring binders in 4 different colors, red, green, blue, and yellow. The students who run the store survey 50 students at random. Again, we're going to assume they chose a random way to do this. The colors they prefer are indicated here. Out of the 50 students, here were their choices. All right, so it says what % of the students prefer blue binders? Well, it was out of 50. Okay, so the blue binders in this case, there were 13 students out of 50. And we were going to find, in this case, it asked us what %. We could, in our calculator, do 13 divided by 50 multiplied by 100. But this one's actually really easy to change something out of 50 to a %. 13 times 2 is 26. 50 times 2 is 100. That is 26% of the students prefer blue binders. All right. If 450 binders are to be ordered to sell in the store, how many should be blue? Let's use proportions to set that up. It's not the only way to do this, but we've already had a unit on proportions that makes this kind of problem really easy. So I'm going to set this up, and I expect you guys to be using proportions again also as well on your project here, because you're going to be pretending like you're ordering something for the 8th grade students. In this case here, we know that 13 out of the 50 surveyed liked blue binders, and we want to find, not out of 50, but out of 450 binders that we're going to order, how many of them should be blue. And so we don't know how many that are. There's the missing piece of information. You guys go ahead and cross-multiply and solve that, and then check with me. Okay, so we need to order 117 blue binders for the store. Now, the next thing that we're going to have you guys do is working on your sampling project. So if you don't already have one of these blue sheets here, you want to go get them off of the top of the bookshelf. It's Math 8 sampling project here. So go find one of those and then bring it back over here, and you're going to start working on it. You're going to pretend that you're ordering some items for the next dance. It could be food or drinks or gifts or something else you can give to every student in your class. You must have 3 different variations of this thing to give these students. You do not have time to find out what every student wants. You're going to take sample 20 students randomly using one of the 3 ways we learned in class to take an unbiased sample. Make sure you don't do a convenient sample. You must ask each of these 20 students which of the 3 choices they would prefer. Then you will use these results to decide how many of each of the 3 choices you need to order for the whole 8th grade class of 121 students. By the way, this part where you need to ask each of those 20 students, I know that you guys really like doing digital ways. You may be using social media to contact people, but you need to find the answers for those 20 people. So it's not a bad idea to send them out some kind of digital thing, but if they do not answer in that first night, you need to find those students the next day, go up to them, ask them this question, find out what they are. Otherwise, it's going to be a biased sample if you aren't going to get an accurate version of what people would like. So it is up to you. You cannot just report back, I wasn't able to do it because people didn't answer my questions. You have to find those students and make sure that they answered your questions. So you may have to do that during one of the breaks or during lunch or something like that, or at the buses. You need whatever it takes to find the answer. It's only 20 students, and it shouldn't take you that long to do that, but you're going to have to find some answers from them. So make sure that you fill out everything in the sheet. And again, this is a project. Make sure that you guys are doing a good job of doing explaining, particularly number 2. This one, it needs a lot of detail down here. You're going to write the 3 choices that you're going to give your sample of 20 students. So at the dance, these don't even have to be realistic things. You can you could be offering kids 3 fancy cars if you want to. Just choose something fun. It could be food or drinks or some kind of prize, something that you're going to give people. And make sure that you're choosing different things that other people are not choosing in your class to make so that you guys are using different kinds of questions that you'll be sampling students. Here, this is the most important one, number 2. You're going to choose one of those 3 unbiased sample techniques. You're going to need to explain what you're actually doing in the technique in detail, but also make sure that you give the name of the technique. There's 3 of them. Make sure that you write the name here. So this is stuff you're going to do right now in class. Okay, you should be able to get this done right away. Then, once you use that technique, you are going to find 20 student names. All right, and by the way, a list of the students will be on Edsby. So you guys can use that list to choose one of those techniques to be able to find those 20 students here. All right, and then here we go. You're going to list those 20 names in here, and then everything else is going to be homework. You're going to put in their choices. You're going to be using the proportions here to find out how many of each of the 3 items you need to order for the 121 8th graders so that everyone gets 1 item. And then you're going to put which item, those 3 things again here, down in the bottom, and the number that you're going to order. Now make sure that you are ordering exactly 121 items. You can't have 119.3 Mercedes-Benzes in here. You're going to give everybody 1 thing, and you have to make sure that you're going to order exactly the amount. So you're going to have to do some rounding. But make sure that these 3 things add up to 121. And once you're done with, for today, this first page here and this first column on the second page, then you can go on to the rest of the homework, which is page 408 to 409, 5 to 12 all, 14 and 15.